XPaths are expressions that allow you to identify elements on your website, and they are extremely useful for setting up the Site Search 360 crawler. With XPaths, you can point the crawler to the perfect titles, images, and other content on your site. Plus, you can use them to create valuable data points for searching, filtering, or boosting. So you definitely don't want to let the technical sounding names scare you off, especially because they are really easy to learn to use. To get started, I recommend installing a browser extension to help you find XPaths. For Chrome, I highly recommend the extension Xpath Helper. Just Google Xpath Helper and follow the link to the Chrome Web Store. Click Add to Chrome, Add Extension, and once you see this message, the extension is ready to use. If you prefer not to use an extension, you can also use DevTools in Chrome to inspect an element and select Copy XPath to get the XPath. Now I will show you how to use XPaths to ensure the crawler has all the information it needs to crawl your pages correctly. Start by opening your project and navigating to Data Structuring and Content Extraction. You might want to start by just copying a test page into the test extraction section at the bottom, because if everything works perfectly out of the box, there's no real reason to provide XPaths here at all. For example, the crawler found the correct title, image, and even the content looks pretty good, except for some stuff at the end that we'll clean up together in a bit. Still, for the sake of this tutorial, we'll go ahead and find the best XPath expression to identify the page titles. Start by opening the XPath Helper, which will display two gray boxes on the top of the screen. If I hover my cursor over the element I'm interested in and press Shift on my keyboard, the XPath Helper highlights the element and displays the XPath query on the left. Now, we want to simplify this XPath expression as much as possible and keep just what we need to accurately identify this title. Usually, we'll start at the end, and here we see that there is an H1 element, which is commonly used for titles. We can actually remove everything else that comes before. Just remember, a valid XPath expression will start with 2 forward slashes. We can also remove what comes after H1 as well, and as we can see in the preview on the right side, this XPath points to the title. Oftentimes, there are multiple ways to identify the content you want. For example, you could also look at the page source and check for meta tags like these here. Sometimes these will be the easiest and cleanest options. To use these, though, you'll have to build the XPath expression yourself. Let me show you how to do that. First, I will copy all this so that I don't have to remember everything, and paste it in on the left side here. What we have here is a tag, which is meta, with the property OG title, and the content, which contains the title we want. To build the XPath, we will start with 2 forward slashes, which come before the tag, which again is meta here. Next, we need to identify which meta tag we want the XPath for, so we need a set of brackets. Inside the brackets, we need an @ sign. After the @ sign, we will place the property attribute including the value, because this identifies which property we want the meta tag to have. We want the meta tag with the property OG title. We can't stop there though, because what we're looking for is the title found inside this content property. So now we will add 1 more forward slash and then @content. We don't need this anymore. And as you can see, this XPath would also give us the title. It comes with something extra at the end, but we could clean that up later. So now you have seen 2 ways to identify the correct title of the page. But let's take the header option we started with. add title XPath, add the H1 element, and save. Every time you add an XPath, you can copy the URL from a test page and make sure it works like expected. Perfect. Next, we want to identify a useful image for your search result snippets. Now, when I hover over this image and press Shift, I see that this image is lazy loaded, which makes using this XPath a bit more complicated. But, as we already saw, we can probably find a different XPath for this image and keep it simple. We will copy this image meta tag and build the XPath expression exactly like we did before. So again, we will start with 2 forward slashes, open the brackets, add the @sign, copy the property in here, another forward slash, @content. And that gives us the image URL. So we can copy this XPath, add an image XPath, save, and test. Again, perfect. Now we are going to clean up the crawled content because everything that gets crawled becomes searchable. So you do not want any search irrelevant content influencing your search results. What might we want to exclude? Well, this blog post shows a related post under See Also, which I would like to exclude. And I would also exclude these tags because I would rather grab them as a data point later. And especially all this footer stuff should go. Let's start with the related post. Again, we will hover over what we want to remove, press Shift, look at the end of the XPath, and the last thing is this div here. This XPath is still much too long, so we'll shorten it by using contains, which we haven't seen yet. This works by typing contains before the @sign, then opening parentheses, changing the equal sign to a comma, and then shortening all of this text to just what we need to identify which div we want to target. You will want to keep the most meaningful text, because keeping something like post will match way more than what we intended to match, as you can see here when I close the parentheses. So instead, I will try keeping thumbnail See Also. As we can see, this XPath highlights just what we want to remove, so it should work. Let's copy that and add it to Exclude Content XPath and save. Now we will exclude the tags. Again, looking at the end of the XPath, the last thing is another div. This time it's short and sweet, so we will copy it just like that, add, save. Last but not least, we want to exclude the footer. We'll take the last div again, and we'll shorten this one too. Contains, open parentheses, comma, subfooter, close parentheses. Looks good. Add, save, and now let's test the entire page. All the content we wanted to remove is in fact gone. Another way to achieve this could be using the Include XPath to identify the content that should be included. Anything that does not match the Include XPath will not be indexed. This is something you will want to approach with caution, though, because if you include a content XPath that works for one page, but your other pages have content that this XPath does not work for, then you'll end up with a lot of empty pages in your index, and you don't want that. Keep in mind, it is also a best practice to test URLs from different parts of your website, in case other pages are structured differently. If so, you can add multiple XPaths under content extraction, like so, to cover other page structures. But if this doesn't work, maybe because the H1 element on another page is not the best page title, then you can create a result group, say for events or news, and determine the best XPath on the result group level. As an example, I set up this news result group, which looks for this URL pattern. If those news pages use, for example, a title tag instead of an H1 element, I could override the H1 I set up under content extraction by putting that title tag XPath here. Now, we could go to data structuring and then data points and use these same principles to set up data points that extract structured information like author, time to read, and tags. These data points can be used in a variety of ways to improve your search experience, but we'll cover all that in another video. For now, the final step would be to re-index your site and reap the benefits of your XPaths. For more information on XPaths, result groups, or data points, check out our docs, or reach out to our support team with any questions.